Everything we do is brand and everything we do is performance, whether you like it or not. So all we're debating is the window of action. Performance dollars is like sales today, and brand dollars is still some sort of KPI tomorrow. It all drives people to action.
In today's world, how does a brand break through the noise and become iconic? Join me, Jason Harris, as I speak with the world's leading marketing experts about how they use soul and science to build an iconic brand. Think of it as EQ meeting IQ. So let's lock in and together fast forward our marketing minds on the Soul and Science podcast. Welcome to the Soul and Science podcast. Today's episode is all about the soul and science of marketplace models. We're talking with Nick Karrat, CMO of StockX, and we're going to dig in and find out about the business of connecting buyers and sellers, as StockX is the stock market of things. Welcome to the show, Nick.
Thanks for having me, Jason.
All right, Nick, I always start with this question: how you got into the marketing path? Did you fall into it? Did you study it? Did you grow up as a young child saying you wanted to be a CMO? How did you get to where you are now?
Yeah, I wish it was linear and only up to the right, but that's not the case for me, as it is for probably many others you talk to. So yeah, I came out of high school looking to get a college degree. Thought I was going to play some sports and wasn't able to. I was good at math and science, so met with my guidance counselor who said, hey, you should be a math or an engineering major. So came out of college with a 4-year mathematics degree, programmed in 4 computer science languages. So took a job out of college programming. I was a developer, hoodie on, headset on, coding away. And I was terrible at it. I hated it. So I was a developer for about 6 months at AT&T right out of college. The beauty of a big company is that there's so much opportunity for you to move laterally if you're not digging what you're doing. So about 6 months in, I was hanging out a lot after work. I played basketball, went down to the beach house. So I was hanging out with a bunch of other new folks at AT&T. And my group ended up being in the advertising. We called it Marcom Group. So I was spending a lot of time over there. One of my contacts said, hey, don't tell anyone. We're about to bring in Whitney Houston. We're going to run a national TV campaign. I'm like, that's amazing. Can I meet her? And they were like, no, sorry, it doesn't work that way. But what you can do is come on, teach us what you do, teach us how you can add value to the advertising channel and our investment here. So essentially 6 months into AT&T, I wrote what was essentially a attribution model. They taught me about TV advertising, pre-logs, post-logs. I didn't know how TV worked. They said, hey, when we run this TV commercial, could you identify where and when phone calls spike or when they go down? And you could sort of help us justify this investment. It's like, I'm down.
AT&T is a massive org. You would think they'd have 1 million people doing that. Why did they pick the boogie with the hoodie to do that?
Yeah, so this was the 90s, right? During the Mad Men era. So the marketing leadership team, and I was like 8 down on the org chart to the CMO. The marketing group back then were salespeople, lighter on the quant side, but incredibly articulate. So obviously investing tens of millions of dollars into building the brand, and they wanted to justify, it's a bad word today, but return on ad spend back then, they wanted to justify it. So I literally talked my way into the org.
They're like, that guy is, he knows computers and he knows numbers and he seems smart. Let's have him figure out the attribution model.
Exactly right. Exactly
That's
right.
amazing.
So yeah, so after 6 months of doing something I hated, I talked my way over to the other side, got into advertising and marketing, spent 8 years at AT&T. I had a technical degree. They paid for my MBA in marketing. And then, the rest is history.
What was the best job you had while you were there?
The best job that I had the last 2 years, I was running a partnership marketing program. Really going to date myself. We actually had prepaid ad cards. So back in the day before mobile devices, if you were traveling, you had a prepaid telephone card. They were a commodity. Didn't matter whether you had AT&T or a competitor. But what we had done, people started to treat them almost like collectible baseball cards. So we did a partnership with the NBA, and we had players on the prepaid phone cards. So that was sort of my first entrance into the collectible market. A lot of people were buying these cards, and because they had a player on them, they weren't actually scratching the back or using the card. So it became a high revenue stream for us with a ton of breakage in the industry. People weren't using them. So far and away, the most exciting piece. Privileged to work at AT&T for, great CMOs and huge agencies. It was almost like going back to business school. The day-to-day work wasn't nearly as exciting, but when you get to work with brands like the NBA, that was super rewarding.
Oh, it's amazing. And then where did you go next after AT&T?
So after AT&T, went to one other blue chip. So Citibank was building the e-business center of excellence with the emerging of the internet. They were trying to shift. The headline was they wanted to get credit card applications from old school print into the internet. So I built that out. It was right about the time my first child was born. So Sophia was born. We were looking for a work-life balance. So I was like, yeah, I could do this for a year. It became 2 years and it became 4 years. So I always had the itch to go small and entrepreneurial. But I spent 4 years at Citigroup. Again, had the privilege to work with great folks. It was actually during the time, and you'll love this because of your agency background. Back in 2000, I believe it was, we had worked with Citigroup. We had worked with Fallon, the agency out of Minneapolis.
Sure.
So they came in, they did some research. I'll never forget, it was such a hard hitting feedback they had given us. But the headline of the pitch was, look, the dot-com boom just happened. People don't trust banks. The bad news is they don't trust Citibank more than anyone else. So they pitched us essentially this anti-bank sentiment. It's not about the size of your yacht. It's not about APRs. It's about the quality of life. So they're like, you're missing it. All banks are missing it. People don't want to be rich. They want to live richly. So that was the moment. Yeah, I'd studied advertising in college. We had been around campaigns. That was one of the most emotional moments for me. And I saw what an ad campaign could do for a traditional kind of sleepy brand like Citigroup, and it was powerful. I got to meet actually several folks at Fallon, the brand strategist, the chief creative officer, and those relationships are still with me to today. So many of those relationships, I brought those folks, how the process goes. They hung up their own shingles. Some of them stayed in Minneapolis. So I brought those brand strategists, those creatives, those copywriters with me throughout my journey.
Fast forwarding a little bit, tell me about Boll Branch.
Yeah, so it's all about relationships, right, Jason? Like that's how you and I are here today. We've met a few times. We came this close to working together, and we always stayed in touch. And I admired your work. So yeah, I knew after that, a 12, 13-year run at blue chips, disruptive founder-led companies was my thing. It's what I love doing. It's what I was passionate about. So my oldest daughter that I talked about played club soccer. I live out in Summit, New Jersey here. That's out my window. Was at a game. And our town has a bunch of Wall Street finance types. And there was like me in a t-shirt and another guy in a t-shirt. They're like, hey, you're a startup guy, right? I'm like, yeah, that's me. They're like, that guy down there sells sheets. So my daughter was a center back. She was a left center back. And the daughter of the Boll Branch founders was a right center back. I went down and introduced myself. We had stayed in touch for years. We were always swapping advice back and forth. Hey, what are you seeing on Facebook CPMs are up. Did you ever work with, Jason and Mechanism? Yeah, he's a great guy. You should engage with him. We were always swapping advice for years. And then he had an opening and he was like, hey, I need a CMO. There's a bunch of inbound interest for this company. I'm going to hire a bank and see if there's any potential transaction that could happen with the business. So I joined him. So we were friends for 3 years, joined him as one of his first CMOs. And he allowed me one of the biggest benefits out of that job. He allowed me to ride shotgun with him on the transaction of his company, which ultimately had a recapitalization or a transaction with L. Catterton, the biggest consumer private equity company in the world. Husband and wife founder, the greatest people, killer brand, and a remarkable opportunity. One of the highlights of my career.
I love that. L. Catterton's good. L. Catterton really rarely misses. And then obviously you worked at Tommy John for almost 5 years, right?
Yep, 5 years.
Tell me about that journey.
Yeah, every journey's unique, right? So I always preach the beginner's mindset, leave your playbook at home. We don't need a playbook. We need curiosity and conviction, right? Come in here, understand the space, talk to people, talk to the experts, and then formulate an opinion. It's ironic the way I got the job. There's a bunch of businesses in the Northeast, a bunch of startups. Many of them get on the venture capitalist like train. They raise money and they sprint. Boll Branch and Tommy John, the founders were actually friends. I did not know the founders of Tommy John. They were part of the cohort that were, for lack of a better word, they were anti VC. They were like profitable growth, reap what you sow, profitable on first customer acquisition, and we're going to build a profitable business day one. Super admirable. Both built extraordinary brands, and they did it the hard way, and I would say the right way. But the downside of that, in general, I'm pro VC. The downside of that is without being part of a portfolio, private equity venture portfolio, you don't have sister companies to talk to. So there's a bunch of these relationships that happened, and Tommy John founders and Boll Branch founders were actually friends. And without having sister companies, because they never took investment dollars, they were always talking to each other.
Oh, that's cool. I got you. So they were
Yeah.
they were sort of like strategic advisors for each other. And then
Yep.
that's how we got in. That's really cool.
Yeah. And if you'll see, a lot of the similar agencies worked at both, a lot of similar, and it was because the founders were sharing stories.
Just real quick, the question, do you believe in running a business from the fundamentals of building profitability, and or do you believe that you should take money and grow as fast as you can?
Yeah, good question. And the answer is nuanced, right? So always, 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 if you could, grow profitably, like generate income on your first customer acquisition, build your brand alongside that. That's the dream. That's the ideal. Look, there's some scenarios where you're in a dogfight, right? Your brand, you're on the clock. There's a land grab moment. You have to gain mind share and market share at the same time. In those moments, in those categories, it's irresponsible not to take money, right? Because with VC dollars, with the right partner, whether it's private equity or VC, the right partner will work alongside you. They'll make your business that much better, and they'll allow you to move faster. And I think you have to realize, like, it's not a one size fit all. And as a founder, you need to realize, like, do we have a unique product? Is this defendable, and for how long? And if you're running out of time to gain market share, like, you better get a partner, and you better take some money off the table, and you better invest in your brand. So I know it's not a complete answer for you, but it depends on the situation.
You need the right partner to propel your brand, because you're going to have barbarians at the gate and you got to get there as fast as you can.
And you never have as much runway as you think you have. You never have it. Someone's watching you. And this day and age, it's so easy to replicate. I can be like, Jason's going to build my brand. I got 3 growth hacks. I'm going to rip off your growth stack. I could do everything you're doing, right? Within weeks. So it's a dangerous time. It's a cool time to launch a brand. It's a dangerous time to build a brand. You just got to be smart and aggressive about it.
All right. And that leads us to your current job as CMO of StockX, which when you got that job, there's few jobs that I'm jealous of. That was one of them. But I was like, God, I would take that job. That job sounds amazing, because I know your demographic's younger than me, but I'm on the older fringes, but I am a hardcore StockX user. I love the brand. And it always has delivered for me.
Foremost, appreciate you being a customer. We value any feedback, so maybe after this call, you can give me some. We appreciate it. On the personal side, I felt the same way as you. You get a lot of inbound calls. At least if you're on the brand side and you work with great brands like Tommy John or Boll Branch, you get a ton of inbound calls because of the strength of the brand you worked with. When StockX came in, I felt the same way you felt, and I'm a New Yorker. All my New York friends felt the same way I felt. So yeah, for me personally, I grew up outside of Syracuse in a small town. I lived through like the 80s and 90s, like Big East basketball, like that time frame. And I joke that I'm the only person at StockX who actually wore Jordan 1s on a court late in the 80s. So this company, this product, I was a customer of it. It just spoke to me, and it was an incredible, incredible opportunity. So I was, flattered when they called me, reached out, met with Greg, the founder. We just hit it off, and I was like, yeah, would love to work here if there's a match both ways.
I'm sure most listeners know StockX, but either way, if some don't, explain StockX to me like I'm your grandma.
So StockX in formal terms, we're the current culture marketplace, right? So what that means in layman's terms, we're known for the last 10 years, we're known for our core category, which is sneakers. So think of it when there's a drop, whether you're into Jordans or On Cloud or any other sneaker, when there's a drop and it sells out and you don't get it, well, there's a marketplace, a peer-to-peer marketplace where you can get what you miss out on, and that place is StockX. So our core started out as sneakers, but we're so much more than that right now. We've got apparel, accessories, collectibles. So anything that is coveted, the things that you love in life that sometimes you miss out on, everything you want or need is here at StockX. So that's really what the brand is about. And to humanize it a little bit more, like there's a big cultural movement around individualism and signaling sort of like who you are. Like you and I are New Yorkers. Like when I see someone in New York, I had the privilege of working on Lafayette Street in New York. When I see someone rocking like a Kith Knicks jacket and Jordan ones, and they've got that basketball vibe about them, like that's a New Yorker, and you could tell immediately like that person's one of my people.
Right. New York and nowhere.
Yeah, exactly right. But I've got a good friend who actually got into soccer later in life because of my daughter and my son who played it. But I've got a good friend from Barcelona who lives in South Beach, and I love South Beach. Like I'm not from there, but I love it. I go down there. He's rocking like the fur sambas. He's got the Miami Vice Inter Miami soccer kit. Like man, head to toe, this guy's just tight. He looks good. He looks apart. Like that's not me, but that's his tribe, and he signals it. And I always go back to StockX. It's the only site, it's the only marketplace that reflects each of our closets, right? Because none of us wear the same brand head to toe, right? You might have like a Louis Vuitton backpack, pair of Jordan sneakers, Supreme hoodie on. Where else can you get all that other than StockX?
Nowhere. You can get knockoffs on Canal Street, and that's about it. So, StockX sellers, they pay a processing fee, and then there's a transaction fee, and that's the revenue model, right? It's fees on the purchases. I mean, I know the growth has been astronomical. What's new for you? Where's the next kind of growth? Is it just opening the aperture to sell more things, or is it, I don't know, going into more markets, or what is the next phase for StockX?
Yeah, the beauty of a company like StockX, we have multiple opportunities to grow, right? We talked about the categories that we're in. Like today, it's sneakers, apparel, accessories, collectibles. Every day, there's something new coming out. What's trending on the site right now? If you're not familiar with it, you can Google it, like Pop Mart, Labubu, these cool monster little stuffed animals that a lot of people are using to accessorize a $7,000 Louis Vuitton bag. Like that's cool. And there's always new accessories coming out. The big opportunity for us is that what you talked about. There's a lot of people that don't know the brand right now, right? So the core sneakerheads, you, me, everyone who loves the brand, we are going to build the brand. We're going to continue to build the brand for that segment. We call them the core. So the people that represent the sellers and buyers. And for us, growing up, like when there was significant scarcity, it was all about the cop, right? Hey, like Jordan's just dropped a new colorway. Either wait in line to get them, or the sneakers app came out and you're bidding within 30 seconds. And I don't know about you, 99% of the time, it's like, sorry, Nick, you didn't get them. And
Yeah.
then one out of 100 times, you get the got him message and you get excited, right? You kind of,
I'm also not going to wait in line for 4 hours. Like I'm just not going to do it.
so
Yeah.
you're getting to the opportunity, right? So I'm still like, I get the notification. It's a silhouette, a colorway I wanted. I'm going to try to get them. But all the category, all the opportunity has been around that moment, and that there will never be anything that replaces a special moment of the Gotham. But think about the moment before that and the user journey and after that, right? So you and I were New Yorkers. Like most of my adult life, early adult life was in New York City. Again, I worked on Lafayette Street. I got inspired walking down the street. I'd see someone wearing something. I would take a picture, ask them, "Where'd you get those
Oh
from?"
my God, I do that all the time. It's
All
great.
the time, right? They probably get wigged out seeing you come up to them. You're a big guy.
Right.
But yeah, we have the benefit. Our headquarters in Detroit. You and I are in New York. Like we have the benefit of being inspired on the street. But there's a lot of people like where I grew up, like in upstate New York. I call it a sneaker desert, right? We didn't have this, and like the kids today, when I go back home to see my mom, you're inspired on the feed, right? It's TikTok, it's Instagram. That's where you get inspired. So before the cop, where do you get inspired? For us, it's the streets. For others, it's TikTok or Instagram feed. There's an opportunity to expand the market share for this audience by moving back to the inspiration. And then that cop moment isn't going away. That's still core to what StockX is. It's about making a bid, getting the product you want at the price you want, feeling great about it. And even downstream from that, it's the fit, right? You're wearing them, you're walking down the street, and you and I start talking. I'll never forget the first time I met you, or the second time I met you. We were on a Zoom at Tommy John. I think I was wearing my Kobe Grinches, and you were like, "Oh, I hate those," and I had them on under the table, and I was like, "Damn!" I was
I
like,
do remember that. Yeah.
you remember that, right?
And
And
that's
and
why
I think
we still haven't worked together.
I'm still upset about that. No, I'm not. But that's the individuality of this category, right? You get something, you're inspired, you cop it or you don't, and then you wear it out, and then that's what it's all about. So we think if you're not the core, we're always going to be serving that core sneakerhead, but there's an opportunity to expand it a little broader. What you just said is like, I don't have time to wait in line. Well, neither do I, but I still want to dress that way. So that's the opportunity.
What trends are you excited about that you're seeing?
I mean, there's so many of them. I think what you and I were talking about before is one of the most exciting, right? The evolution of what we're doing now, the evolution of podcasts, right? Like coming out of the pandemic, YouTube surpassed, I believe it was Spotify and Apple to be the number one consumption channel for podcasts. So what was traditionally a marketing channel that was only through your ears, coming out of the pandemic became one of the most visual mediums. But more than that, like much more than that, for me, the biggest thing, StockX plays a huge role in the sports swim lane. I can't tell you how many NBA athletes, NFL athletes, when they come by Detroit, they actually come into our headquarters to visit and to cop some sneakers, which is what I would be doing. So access to athletes, back in the 90s was like going to CAA, working with an agent, having a meeting. You never got to interact with these athletes. But the evolution of podcasts with the athlete as the host and the athlete as the guest has been extraordinary. Brands have unprecedented access to talent that never existed before, and athletes are now able to tell their own story. So I truly think like the explosion in sports, and you've read about private equity dollars going into sports, much of that has come through the humanization of these athletes, and they're allowed to then tell their stories through their own podcast or going on a podcast with a retired NBA player. They're just much more comfortable talking to each other versus talking to, a media outlet or a traditional old school journalist. So to me, that's one of the biggest unlocks. And for us, one of the earliest activations we had done, we engaged with one of the top sports podcasts. You probably know All the Smoke with Matt Barnes, Steven Jackson, two NBA legends. Steven Jackson's one of the, one of the people on the forefront in terms of human rights. This is one of the evolutions for brands. Like when you're meeting with these folks, and again, they're not actors, so we have to build a brand which is pixel perfect and curated, but also allow what we call authentic endorsements. So Matt and Stack, Steven Jackson's nickname is Stack, they were already huge customers of StockX. So we had a few talking points for them. And what I normally tell them is like, roll the tape, give us 30 minutes of unfiltered feedback, and we give them a few talking points. And it's awkward for them to say like, the curated marketplace, or like, I don't really know what that means. I'm like, it's cool, just keep going. And like, Matt, you've purchased dozens of times for us. Like, just riff with Stack. Like, let us know how you normally do. He pulls out his phone, starts going through his StockX, and they're like, tell him what you bought. He's like, I bought a Supreme hoodie last week. Matt Barnes is saying this. Steven Jackson goes, nice. He's like, I bought Jordan 1 Lows, Travis Scott's Fragment. He's like, nice. He's like, I bought the Nike Shocks, and Stack goes, trash. So, and they were like, oh, sorry, like cut the tape. I was like, no, keep going, keep going.
Yeah, that's
So
great.
they were just authentically going back and forth, and they're like, sorry, we'll cut that trash out of there. I was like, no, keep it in. And our first ever social media cut down that we ran from the podcast included that in there, where Matt Barnes is going through nice, trash, and he was talking about merchandise that we carry on our site, and it was like, nowhere would you put that in your brand book. Like, it's cool to call your product and your merch that you're carrying trash. But this authentic endorsement and storytelling and having it be unfiltered is extraordinary. So I couldn't be more bullish on this medium and what it's done for access for brands and athletes and more.
What's another medium beyond podcast that you feel moves the needle for your brand?
For us, and again, because of our demographic and because of the nature of that collectibles category, which is very spiky, TikTok has been a huge unlock for us.
TikTok marketplace?
TikTok Shop, TikTok Marketplace we're not into yet, but just the awareness because these collectibles come in and out so quickly, and the StockX brand is so strong. So I'll give you an example. Pop Mart Labubu launched what they call blind boxes. So you get a box, you don't know what you're getting, you rip it open. So organically on TikTok, that trend of unboxing moments just took off.
Yeah, that's really smart.
And then this young segment came in and said like, hey, where can I get those and where can I trust that these are legitimately Pop Mart Labubu? Like nobody opened the box and replaced them with the less coveted items. And again, current culture marketplace, have what I need, trusted. That's where StockX plays, and that's where we benefit.
Was there one big, even in the past, like some big breakthrough that made StockX the brand awareness catapult, or was it a slow build over time?
Yeah, it's funny. It's been built over time, and we looked at the last 3 years worth of data. It's been consistent, and it's been through just word of mouth and delivering that. It's funny. Our new tagline is StockX. Now you know. So the tongue in cheek is like if you're in the core sneakerhead, like of course you know, and the confidence that StockX provides of like, hey, where'd you get that StockX? All right, like that's how you know. And then the peripheral folks who are looking at like the cool sneakerheads and what they're wearing, uh, they're becoming educated just through word of mouth, authentic word of mouth. So that's why we love that tagline. Now you know, StockX. Now you know. That's how it's going, and we're all about expanding the brand. But we can never lose sight of that core sneakerhead community. And anything we do to artificially spike that up, I don't think will be received well, and it would be a disservice to the brand we're building. But what I will tell you in the last few weeks, we've been excited about this. You can go back and look at this. We were mentioned on like a national news station when Pop Mart Labubu came out. Jimmy Fallon came out just last week and was poking fun at someone, and he essentially was talking about, hey, what's the biggest thing you could think of? And he was talking about gifting a StockX gift card. One of my favorite moments, I was at Detroit headquarters for the Pistons versus Knicks playoff game. Literally 6 hours before Game 6 in Detroit, PJ Tucker, who is like, maybe God's gift to this intersection of athletes and sneakerheads. He has the best sneaker collection of anyone in the NBA, and that's universally agreed upon. Swings by headquarters hours before Game 6. He actually knew someone on the marketing team, called and said, hey, can I swing by? So there's very few brands that get that type of like authentic drive-by traffic, and our goal is to keep it that way.
Do you capture any of that when that happens?
Yeah, if they allow us. So I'm sure there's a cut down on TikTok or Instagram. We have something very coveted. We have a super secret sneaker store at our headquarters that only a handful know about. Now you know about, and all your listeners will know about it. But they do come in if they're comfortable. We're like, hey, could we just put a mic on you and just answer a few questions? It's authentic, it's genuine, it's on brand for StockX, and like PJ Tucker talking about his first and most coveted sneaker story. It's just, the category and the products we carry were made for storytelling. Everyone talks about storytelling, but StockX has permission to do it like no other brand.
What are you, if you can brag for a second, what are you particularly good at that maybe you've always had in you, or you've honed that skill for, decades in the business? What do you think makes you unique at your CMO position?
Good question. I think everyone has this. So I truly believe everyone has this. I think it takes a certain level of maybe it's career stage or confidence to listen to it. My superpower is undeniable. It's reading people. So somewhat important at those bigger companies I worked at, but at founder-led startups, like, when you meet someone, you probably get this when you're pitching brands, right? You're sitting in a room, you intuitively get a read of that room. Like, these guys, this is a brave room. There's one decision maker. They're going to be bold, or you're going to have a room full of people that are like, oh man, everyone's like defaulting to someone else here. They don't really have conviction. They're talking about like return on ad spend with a 24-hour window. This isn't going to go well. Like, at some point you have to develop that conviction. When I met, you know, even one of the jobs before, I'm trying to give you an example. Like, when meal kits came out, they were coming to America back in 2013, and the functional side of me was like, we're going to take $2 worth of groceries, shove them into a box with ice cubes and sell it for $12. Like, that might be the stupidest idea I've ever heard. But then I met the founders of Plated, and it was, Nick and Josh, and Nick was this big guy, and he was like, you're missing the point. He's like, food in America is broken. People are as disconnected as they've ever been. This isn't about $2 worth of food. This is about bringing people together in the kitchen twice a week. Boom. Right. So people, vision, financial opportunity will come if you're working with the right people and you build the right brand. And all those exits, Plated had an extraordinary exit. Boll Branch had an extraordinary exit. Same for Tommy John. It all came down to, like, the marketing teams I get to work with are privileged, and the marketing team is the team that executes. But it all starts at the top, and it's about people and vision. And like, I'm talking about the highlights. I've had just as many disasters, and intuitively you knew that there was just, it was the right amount of pay, it was convenient, it was a sexy category. But if you don't trust and admire the people above you, and we have the privilege of working for a great founder here at StockX, you got to have the conviction not to go into that role. So I think I didn't listen to that instinct earlier on, but I'm at the stage of my career where I would never work with people I don't admire.
How do you balance, as a CMO and in your current role, how do you balance the idea of brand building with performance? You got to drive business performance month to month, quarter to quarter, but you also have to invest and spend in building the brand, because ultimately, that has a lot of value. It's just a longer term burn. That's kind of my soul and science question of brand and performance.
Yeah, I appreciate the question. It's also my least favorite, right? Everything, you know this. You probably taught me some of this at our first meeting. Everything we do is brand, and everything we do is performance, whether you like it or not, right? You send out a text message for a 24-hour sale, or you have your epic cinematic, you know, campaign going out on YouTube streaming during the NBA playoffs. It all drives people to action. The only difference for me, just to, like, performance dollars is like sales today, and brand dollars is still some sort of KPI tomorrow, right? And usually it's sales or transaction, or they're like, oh no, that's for consideration. Why consideration? Oh, because down the road they might buy something. Okay, so all we're debating is the window of action. That's it. And if I told you, if it was brand or performance, if I said there's this brand thing to do, we're going to put $1 million into this and it's never going to return anything, well, you should shoot me as the CMO for bringing it and to the table, and we should not do that. But like, brand is the moat, right? And I go back to like, Plated in the food space, one of the most difficult spaces to be in. Plated raised 50 million, sold for over 300 million. Like, food is the worst, least profitable business you can get into, but it was built because we built a brand. It was the ecosystem, the healthiest player in the meal kit space. Boll Branch, the best sheets you'll ever sleep on. Why did L Catterton acquire them? Well, they had an incredible story. They took one of the worst industries in textile production in India. They treated the earth right through organic cotton, and they treated the people right through fair trade wages. So doing the right things isn't going to drive a sale today, maybe not tomorrow, but there is value over time. And you're probably not going to work for any brands that don't have that vision. I would never work for a founder or company that doesn't get that. And we could debate where to draw the line, like what percentage is brand, how are you going to keep score? I'm down for those debates, and the benefit of having a quantitative background is you can measure something. But man, if you're only going to be on that performance treadmill, like, good luck.
Do you have a mantra or a quote that you live by, or that you think about, or you come back to?
Yeah. got a few. I don't have them up on the wall. I'm a huge fan of Ben Horowitz at Andreessen Horowitz.
Sure.
I don't know if you read his book. He's got several books, but like What You Do Is Who You Are, to me, is the ultimate culture book. And he sort of rages against the big company environment that I started my career at. He's like, look, anyone could put BS values up on a wall. He's like, that values are artificial and they're just words on a page. Virtue is what you do day in, day out. So it's one of my favorite books. He's one of my favorite people. Like, he goes deep. I think he's a Jewish guy from Brooklyn, white as can be, and he goes deep on like rap lyrics from the 80s. And I don't know how he does it, but he's a magician. If you don't watch his podcast, his book's extraordinary. And for me, that's one of the things that I live by.
All right. Thanks for joining on the Soul and Science podcast, sharing your wisdom with us, telling us a lot about StockX and your journey. We appreciate it. Thanks so much, Nick.
Thanks, Jason.
Soul and Science is a Mechanism podcast produced by Maggie Bowles, Ryan Tillotson, and Lily Jablonski. The show is edited by Daniel Ferreira with theme music by Kyle Merritt. And I'm your host, Jason Harris.